There's been some awesome leaks from the new Edge of Eternity set that look completely legit to me and really interesting. So, Evendo Walking Haven is a land planet that has this land enters tapped. You can tap it to add a green. It has station. Tap another creature you control, put a charge counter equal to its power on this planet. Station only as a sorcery. And then the last ability, if you tap 12 total power, you can tap it for 1 green, add 1 green for each creature you control. So it's basically a Gaia's Cradle. It coming into the battlefield tapped is unfortunate, but is not a huge cost. And tapping 12 power does seem like a lot, but how I kind of see this card is you play it on turn 1, and then for the rest of the game, whenever you don't need an attacker or blocker, you put counters on this. And then once you have a huge board, you tap just enough for this to have 12 counters on it, and then it makes a ton of mana. It also synergizes really well with itself. If you're playing in a deck that makes a lot of creatures, because if you make a lot of creatures, you'll have a lot of power to pay the 12. And once you do that, it's kind of like you're tapping your creatures all for mana. Because once you do get to 12, it will be an insane burst of mana. So I think this card is going to be so awesome in Commander. I feel like if you're playing any go wide deck, the opportunity cost of putting this into your deck really isn't bad. 1 tapped land isn't the end of the world. Sometimes you don't need 1 extra mana, so you just play this and then you don't feel bad whatsoever. And then later in the game, it becomes an insane mana sink. So yeah, awesome card. Now, we're getting a cycle of these for each color. We're going to get a land planet that enters the battlefield tapped, where you have to station it, and then it gets a busted ability. So the black version of this is Susur, Secundi Void Altar. I really like the framing on this card. It looks really cool. I do like that it doesn't have any borders. It looks really neat to me. So it enters battlefield tapped. You can tap it for black mana. It has station. And then if you have 12 counters of it because of the station, you can pay 1 of any color, 1 black, tap it. Pay 2 life, sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, activate only as a sorcery. So this card really synergizes itself, just like Evendo, because you want to be playing creatures with really high power to get the station as fast as possible. And once you get the station as fast as possible, you can just immediately sack the big creature you just tapped and draw so many cards. And once you've done that, it becomes a really good sack outlet and card advantage outlet. So yeah, awesome land. It will see play in so many decks, and it doesn't cost much to just put this in any black deck. Because coming in tapped really isn't the end of the world. So yeah, awesome card. A funny interaction with those lands is all will be 1. So instead of any color and 2 red for an enchantment with, whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, all will be 1 deals that much damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls. So with all will be 1, whenever you tap to station these lands, it'll deal that much damage to any target. This is probably not competitive, it's not viable, but I just think it's funny. It's a really cool interaction. And once we get the red version of this, if the red land is good, might make a deck. Who knows? Now, consult the star charts. Is 1 of any color and 1 blue for an instant. With kicker, 1 of any color, 1 blue. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. Put 1 of those cards into your hand. If this spell was kicked, 2 of those cards into your hand instead. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So what a crazy versatile spell. Obviously, if you're playing on turn 2, it's not the best because you're only looking at 2 cards, which is underrated. But if you're playing a control deck, you generally want to be interacting with your opponents on the early turns, and then cast your draw spells late game to get more removal and counter spells. So I think this card starts to get really powerful around turn 4, where you have the choice of playing it for 2 mana, getting interaction and dealing with your opponent, or paying it for 4 mana and basically getting a memory deluge with no flashback. But it just keeps getting better and better after that. Let's say you're turn 7, that's 2 mana, look at 7 cards, or 4 mana, look at 7 and put 2 in your hand. That's super versatile, because with Control Deck, you're trying to use all of your mana every turn. So you can go 5-drop and play this for 2. Or you can go 3-drop and play this for 4. It's super versatile. It's instant speed, which is super strong. And it works so well in Control, because Control wants to get the game really long, where you have a ton of lands in play, which synergizes with this. It just fits in really well. I think this is just as strong as Memory Deluge. The ability to pay it for 2 or 4 is just as strong as Memory Deluge being able to get flashed back. So yeah, I think this will be Control staple. It's just so powerful. And I'm super excited to run it in my blue-white Control decks. Timeline color is 2 black for a 2/2 creature Drix Warlock. With haste, you may cast this card from your graveyard using its warp ability. Its warp is 1 black, pay 2 life. You may cast this card from your hand or graveyard for its warp cost. If you do, exile this creature at the beginning of the next end step. Then you may cast it from exile on a later turn. So 2 mana 2/2 haste isn't bad. In an aggressive deck, that's decent. But if it gets removed, you can just keep on recurring it. It also works pretty great as a blocker. Like, it has haste, but you don't need to attack. You can play it, block it. Next turn, you warp it for 2, you lose 2. Then you play it again and just keep this blocking chain going. But also, you won't feel too bad when you attack, you swing at your opponent with a bunch of creatures, and then they block this one. You can immediately warp it and then replay it next turn. So I don't think this card is like crazy busted, but it's really strong for its rate, and I think it could see play in the right deck. Infinite Guideline Station is 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, and 1 green for a 7/15 legendary artifact spacecraft. When Infinite Guideline Station enters, create a tapped colorless 2/2 robot artifact creature token for each multicolored permanent you control. It has Station, where you can tap creatures and put counters on this card. It's flying. If it has 12 counters, when Infinite Guideline Station attacks, draw a card for each multicolored permanent you control. So this card is super interesting because Wizards has released that legendary vehicles can be your commander. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty simple. You play a bunch of multicolored creatures, you put this into play, you make a ton of 2/2s, and then you use all of the 2/2s to station this vehicle so it can attack and then draw a bunch of cards of your multicolored permanents. It's a pretty neat strategy. It's unique. I don't think it's standard viable, even though we are getting the Shocklands in Standard, which is an awesome announcement. I still think 5 colors is still too tough for the format. But for Commander, it's really neat. It's really interesting. And it's going to be cool to see some new legendary vehicles. So those are the leaks I wanted to talk about. Some really interesting cards. And based on these, I think this set will be so interesting and unique. I cannot wait to see more. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and have a good one.